Hello, Carmen. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I really appreciate your time. And as you can know, I am working on my contemporary business leader presentation project for school. I'm going to ask you a series of questions about your career and your leadership experiences and the lessons that you've learned along the way. We will be recording this interview. Is it okay that I have your permission for this interview?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, this interview will take about 20 to 25 minutes. I have some structured questions that we'll go through. Uh, and yeah, there's no right or wrong question, so yeah, just feel free to answer however you feel comfortable. Uh,
Okay.
First, what we're going to start off with is just a little bit of a background about who you are. Can you just give me a brief background of your career and what you've gone through, what type of roles and organizations you've been with?
Yes, I'll start with the most notable related to my career. Although I worked my way through college working as a manager of a bagel bakery. I then moved on to Pasadena Athletic Club as a student, as a trainer. And once I graduated from college, I worked several jobs. I had three jobs at three different gyms, and then was asked to have a full time job at the Olympic Club. And I worked there for 25 years, but I started the first 10 years as their senior fitness programs director, so I ran their senior programs. Concurrently, I was also their fitness programs director, running their fitness programs. I took a year off to start a business, worked at Peekadoodle Kids Club as their wellness manager, opening their cafe, teaching their fitness classes, starting their gym, and teaching classes to cooking classes. Additionally, I worked at Claremont Country Club for another year and then went back to the Olympic Club for the remaining 15 years. I was their fitness director and had a different job at Coterie as a resident engagement director. And then finally, I am 3 years deep at Moraga Country Club.
Okay, nice. So you've definitely had your way around the fitness industry. Uh,
Yes, yes.
with
And
your with your time doing that so far, have you had any formal time in leadership positions with like managing staff, setting programs, and whatnot?
yes, I most of my career has been in management.
Okay.
I was in management starting at the Olympic Club for 25 years, again as the senior fitness programs director, and then the latter part of my tenure, their fitness director running the gym. And I've also was a wellness director. In addition to that, I am currently the fitness director of Moraga Country Club. So I've been in management, excluding managing as a student, Bagel Bakery. I have been in management for about 30 years.
Okay. Wow. Very impressive. So yeah, first the main topic that we're gonna pivot towards is pretty much your greatest career achievement.
Mhm.
Looking back at your career, what accomplishment are you most proud of?
Gosh, I think my ability to continue to evolve as um, as my career changed, I had to continue to stay relevant. And so, in that period of time, I was able to acquire not only a degree in exercise science, I went back to school to study holistic nutrition for 2.5 years. And in that tenure, I was able to get a certification a year. And so, I have about 25 certifications. So, I just continued to be a student. And I'm most proud of that because oftentimes we can just get our degree, get one certification, it's one and done. And all I know is in 33 years of my career, I don't know enough. I'm still continuing to learn.
Yeah, that's definitely always learning is just you always got to be a sponge and absorb.
Mhm.
But yeah, bouncing off of that, um, working towards that achievement. How many times would you say that you gathered the people around you, focus on directing them and creating like a team environment, and any particular skills or methods that you use towards that?
So I think in being able to create a culture where we all have a common goal, you have to continue to retrain. And so if I learn something, it is important for me to retrain my staff and train my staff. For example, in working at high-end clubs such as the Olympic Club, Pasadena Athletic Club, Moraga, and Claremont Country Clubs, these are high-end clubs where you have Olympians and former athletes, NFL, NBA. corporate CEOs, senators. So it's really important that you're training your staff on customer service and that they're staying on top of the latest research in our industry. So we had weekly retrainings in customer service, and when we run into issues, we would use that as a talking point and a learning point for staff because we're dealing with high end people that have high expectations. So training was really high, and it started with me taking myself back to management classes, studying, reading books, podcast, YouTube. So it was really important for me to stay on top of that and to be able to ensure that I knew it, I taught my staff. So that was really important.
Okay, yeah. And during that time, how did you make sure you stayed motivated throughout all the trials and tribulations and just time as a manager?
Um, in a mostly male industry, you have to grow thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to take feedback. Um, you know, Sometimes it's very direct, but I have to take my ego out of it and um, I have to stay positive and know that every feedback is just to improve my product, my brand, and the club culture.
Okay, and just looking at it as everything as a whole, how confident were you in the beginning that you could pull it off? Was there like an uncertainty to things? Where did that
Yes.
confidence come from?
Well, when you first get out of college, you've given all this information and you've not learned to apply it. And so it was a learn as I go process. I didn't have the benefit of having a female mentor. So unfortunately, all of my mentors, I didn't have any, but I would ask a lot of questions of my bosses. So I basically learned books and that learning process. Through education, is how I mentored myself. And then again, I just asked a lot of questions. What are the expectations? If in my reviews, what could I do to be better? So I was just continuing to improve myself. It was a different time at the beginning of my career. I was the only female in leadership, and most of our directors were at least 15, 20 years older than I was. So it was difficult at first. Absolutely. There was a lot of learning, a lot of mistakes. Um, and again, learning to understand high end culture. That was probably the hardest for me. Um, but I think I am a people person at heart, and so I led with my intention was to show up every day and aim for a 10. And if I left with a rating of 7, I felt comfortable with that. But again, I was always aiming to just provide excellent service, and I think that's where over time I started to separate myself from the rest of my the staff that I came in with. I didn't start as the leader of the department, but over time I kept moving up because one, I was educating myself. Two, I was learning. Three, I learned to build rapport. That was probably my specialty, and through that, I feel like it helped me excel.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It definitely goes with kind of what you were saying. Never stop learning. But now we're going to shift to something a little bit more difficult. As you know, every leader has faced significant challenges. Throughout your professional career, what has been like the most difficult, significant challenge that you've had to navigate?
I would probably say early in a career, as I mentioned, being an only female in most rooms you walk in. We didn't have a department with HR where you deal with sexual harassment. You just had to show up to work and do your job. And so I feel like to be a leader in this industry, I had to make sure that I was prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I had to know more just to be at the table to be equal. I had to live the part. I had to um, not only know more, but I feel like I had to know more so that I can earn respect. So that was probably the hardest. Is the people I ended up leading at the latter part of my career had been at the club 15, 20 years ahead of me. So it was really hard to lead a team that I came in as their peer and then end up being their manager. I had to earn the respect. And so what I used, I read a book many years ago called The Five Love Languages
Mm-hmm.
in regards to relationships. So I had to go, okay, this person is acts of service. So I'm going to show them that I'm willing to do something with them. Words of affirmation. This person really deals with encouragement. So I used those type of affirmations, words, acts of service, physical touch. I was very hands-on with each of the staff to build rapport and respect.
Okay, yeah,
And I eventually got that.
that's definitely impactful. Were there during that time was there any specific examples of any challenges where you had to make like a tough call where there like possibly wasn't even like a perfect answer?
Um, it's probably the most difficult is the first time you have to fire someone.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardest part of that is the first time you make the mistake. I learned after that is to document everything. And when you document anything, you have this path to go, okay, this is why I fired this person. But, the first time is really difficult. So for me, that was probably the most challenging. It wasn't a very clear cut, the person remained in the office, the person needed evidence, and, albeit, he was tardy all the time, you need documentation. And that's where, as a new manager, I had made mistakes. I had not documented as thoroughly as I should have. And from that example, I learned that documentation is everything. Conversations, again, between you and I, this is what we had discussed. So I really, from that mistake, learned to document absolutely every conversation. And again, send an email. So make sure that I had our conversation correct. This is the summary of what we just discussed. So again, just making sure we put things on paper. That was really important for me.
Okay, yeah, most definitely. And yeah, from that, what would you say you've learned from yourself as a leader, and how did it kind of shape you as a leader you are today?
Um, so I think every year that I've managed, I've learned one new tool to add to my toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just know exercise science. You have to know people. You have to know how to build rapport, not only with members, but with your own staff. You have to also teach by example and lead by example. And so, one of the things I would do is, in addition to training, I'd make sure that my staff can write articles. I'd make sure that they can write incentive programs. But it started with me, me developing that and then me showing them how to do that so that our brand would continue to grow. That was really important. And then again, when we would have an example, a challenging moment with a member, um, if I had a moment where I feel I failed, I use the example of, let me tell you what I did and the mistake I made, and then did my best to correct that, and then use that as a talking point with my staff going forward. If we can, I give an example. There was a member that, we had a dress code and he was not dressed to the dress code.
Mm-hmm.
The Olympic Club was very strict about that. And I had mentioned, I'm sorry, we have an athletic shoe policy. The person obviously was a boss and was not used to being told what to do. And so he had a very hard time. And so he at first was very rude. So he had said a bad word to me. And so initially it triggered me. And so then asked for an apology for having, he thought I had a tone, which I stay very level-headed, and I thought it was pretty level-headed. But he kept pointing at my face and asking me for an apology, and initially triggered me until about 5 minutes into this interaction, I realized, why am I taking this personally? And again, I mentioned, I'm really sorry. I think we got started on the wrong foot. Let me offer you a free training session. And then after I said that, his whole demeanor had changed, and he had mentioned to me that he was getting married this weekend. And so I didn't have context to why he was behaving, but he was nervous. Mm-hmm. And so from that, I realized, sometimes we need to look past the obvious. And from that moment on, when the member came back from his vacation, he took me up on the training session, and he actually became a very loyal client. And we ended up having a really good friendship and a rapport. Had I just continued on my path of letting my ego get in the way, we would not have had the same interaction, and I would have missed out on the opportunity to know him in a different light. And so I used that with my staff, and I said, let me tell you how I failed. And how what I learned and what going forward, how I deal with a difficult, what I would say, quote unquote, a difficult member. There is no difficult member. We just have to step out of our own way sometimes.
Okay, wow, very impactful. That was a very good example. Now we're just going to expand onto the bigger picture, kind of about sense of purpose and direction as a leader. How would you describe your personal mission as a leader? Like, for example, if someone asked you, what is Carmen's purpose here at work at Moraga Country Club, what would you say?
Oh gosh. So I love what I do. I've been doing this for quite a long time, 33 years in the industry, and I've yet to be bored with what I do. And so my mission is really to help people be their best self. And I operate by a quote by Socrates. And I'm going to summarize the quote, but it says, "No man has the ability to, no man has the right to be an amateur of their own physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without knowing the strength and beauty of what their body is capable of." And having been at one club and I entered as a 25-year-old and I left as a 50-year-old, you can kind of see the direct trajectory of people's life. If this person continues here, they're going to become frail. If this person just makes a few different choices, mobility, community, strength, they could potentially live a long life with health. Um, and so I realized that my mission is to make sure that people do not reach their expiration date frail. If I can do something about it, I want to make sure we all um, can get to our expiration date mobile and active and healthy. And that just takes a little bit of effort, but that is my mission. And my mission is to teach my staff to be of service that way. So I feel my purpose is to be of service in the smallest capacity to help people live a better quality life.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, most of the time when people think exercise science or athletic training, they only think like top of the top athletes, not just like the general public or seniors. So yeah, that's wonderful right there. But yeah, in your work, whether it's at the Olympic Club or Moraga or just in your other endeavors, how comfortable have you been with uncertainty and risk, and have you ever had to take a leap of faith?
Absolutely. So when I first entered the Olympic Club is the oldest athletic club in the United States. In 1860s, I believe it was developed. It was founded, and who's who? Mark Twain, you name it. When I first walked into it, what I noticed, and I promised myself I would not, that there was a lot of rusty. This is how we've always done it, and the leaders there had just always had year after year. This is how they did things, and here I come in, a few years out of college, and I told myself I don't want cobwebs over me. I want to continue to push the envelope. So over the 25 years, I feel like I succeeded in doing that. Again, building rapport with our membership. They had not had challenges. I developed programs, lectures. So I was doing things that were not being done at the club prior. And again, because it terrified me to speak in public, but I got better year after year after year. And I did not love writing articles at first, and towards the end of the last 15 years, I loved it, because I was afraid of that. And so I love challenges, and I continue to try to approach things that scare me and head in that direction. So I love taking risks. The biggest risk was leaving the Olympic Club after 25 years. I was very comfortable. I was very successful, well liked. The members were amazing. But I think I'd reached a point where I thought I had pretty much done all I could do there. And after that point, I wondered, like, where do I go from here? What's next for me? And when you begin to ask those questions, sometimes the answer shows up. And just, it's your opportunity meeting preparation. And so the opportunity for this showed up in the rest is history. Now I've been there for 3 years, and it's all the jobs I did at the Olympic Club in one. I run their entire gym from ground up, hire all their instructors or front desk staff. I have an intern program. I have a training program. Again, we have created a science-based program. That would not have been possible had I not made mistakes prior or had all these different jobs. So this current job, I think, is just all my creative factors all into one.
Okay, yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, now just only a couple more questions before we wrap up. You've been in the industry for going on 3.5 decades now. In your experience, what does it take for someone to be a truly effective leader? Not just a manager, but someone who people genuinely want to follow. And does everyone have it in them?
I would say you have to want to roll up your sleeves and work. And I think from my experience, when I became leader at the Olympic Club, um, the people that I became the boss to had been there. One was there 25 years, one was there 27 years. Um, from my experience, no, not everybody wants to take that role because you take work home as a manager. You are thinking, you have to put yourself, if I own this business, what can I do? So you're always thinking about work, and not everybody wants to roll up their sleeves and take that home with them, or worry that. And there's a lot of preparation. It's not just knowing exercise science, psychology, management. You have to know California labor laws. So there's so many things you become an expert at. So uh, personally, I don't think everybody has it in them. You have to really want to manage a group. Um, and again, there is just so many people's put together in all these different personalities, and you have to know, how do I capture their attention, the respect. For me, I am the type of leader that I like to roll up my sleeves, and I will not ask anybody to do something I wouldn't do. I like to hire people that are much smarter than I am. Um, Really important for me, the biggest deal breaker for me is ego. I want people that want to serve and want to help and have their own mission. And then how can I help their mission in our department? And I also bring the group together and ask their opinion on, do you think this person would be a good fit in our department? If we get one thumbs down, I really reconsider bringing that person in, because all it takes is one person to change the dynamics of an entire group. So in the 3 years I've been at Moraga, we've not had a single person quit. We've not had any issues that I can think of as of yet. Not that we won't ever have any, but were thoughtful in who we were bringing in as a team. And most people are 10 years plus in their industry.
Okay, wow, yeah, that's very impressive, and that's very not too many people can say that alike. Uh, but yeah, pretty much to wrap us up, one last question. If you were to give one bit of information or advice to someone starting off as a leader or trying to become a leader, what would that be?
Once you get your degree, that's not where it ends. It actually is the beginning. Again, you continue to be a student in your craft, read books. Success leaves clues, follow leaders in your industry. Again, stay a student. I've read more now and have learned more than I did in college. College was a great foundation, but that's what it is. And then you have to give yourself a big umbrella. You can't just I'm going to, work with Olympians, or I'm going to work with, again, the my success in just broadening out my scope. And so for most students, I tell them, roll up your sleeves and get to work, because you've just begun. You need um, that. And then just heart of service, find what your mission is. Again, my mission is to make a difference in the tiniest little space that I can, but I want to make a difference. And so knowing that, that's kind of your lighthouse for you. I'm going to follow that.
Okay, yeah, that's very impactful, and yeah, you have a amazing testimony, and yeah, that pretty much sums up it for my end on the interview. It's been great talking to be able to see more of an insight on your career and the endeavors that you've gone through. Yeah, it's very impressive what you've been able to do, and I think any future leader and someone who wants to become a leader can learn a lot from you. But yeah, thank you for your time and love you, Mom.
Okay,
Thank you. I'll call you soon.
thank you, love.